Will this be the first good Black Clover game on Roblox? Yesterday I got the chance to test CLOVERRPG, and after my testing experience it definitely has the potential to be great. But there's obviously a reason I say potential, but let's get straight into it. I stream on Twitch daily.
God did.
So the first thing you're gonna notice about CLOVERRPG when you load in the game, and just the thing that really carries the gameplay experience in my opinion, is the combat. The combat is very similar to Deep Woken but in a Black Clover game. And as someone like myself that hasn't even played Deep Woken very much, it still was very easy for me to adapt to the combat and really start enjoying it very fast. And I don't know if it's because the combat felt new to me, but even when I was fighting things like bandits, it still felt like I was having fun just because I was enjoying the combat. But some parts of the game just didn't feel like they fit the combat very well. For example, a problem that a lot of testers experienced was the boars in the game. The boars are a lot different than the normal NPCs because it's very hard to tell when to parry the boars' attacks. And compared to all of the other fights, it just really feels unresponsive and like I'm playing a RNG type of game and just kind of dodge and hope I don't get hit. Now what I will say is they've already been adjusting the boar, they've adjusted its HP and whatnot, but to be honest I really feel like the animations just need to be more obvious when they're coming. And there's also other animals in the game similar to the boar that I would assume have very similar problems. I didn't really get to experience them as much, but it's definitely still something that I want to keep in mind. For those that don't know, CLOVERRPG is loosely inspired by Black Clover, meaning they're not really trying to make it a complete Black Clover game, which I do understand and I think that's fine, but to an extent I think they went a little too far with it. But don't get me wrong, some things still feel very immersive. For example, when you get your grimoire, it feels very similar to how it did in Black Clover. And as someone that really enjoys the anime Black Clover, I think if they were able to make the game feel more similar to that all the time compared to how it does right now, it would make the game feel a lot more immersive. But to be honest, I'd be very surprised if they were really able to make that happen. And the reason I say that is they're really focusing on the bare bones of the game and not really focus on adding things from actual Black Clover, which is something they've made very clear. But what do I mean by that? For example, if you look at the magics, there's only light, lightning, fire, and shadow, I believe. And even if they do end up adding more, these are magics that you don't really think of when you think of Black Clover. When I think of Black Clover, I personally think of things like anti-magic and 4-leaf grimoires and cool stuff like that, which are just not implemented in the game. Now obviously the game is still in relatively early testing, so it's definitely a possibility they still add more Black Clover themed things in the game, but I'm not exactly sure how focused they are on this at all. For example, the map doesn't really have a lot of Black Clover things in general. I personally think if they ended up adding the Clover Kingdom and maybe you're able to join a magic squad like the Black Bulls and actually interact with members and stuff like that, I think that would be something that would be really interesting, but I don't think they're really going in that direction. But even though I do say that, I don't think they necessarily need to make a good game. It's just not necessarily gonna feel like a Black Clover game. Something I do want to give them credit for is the fact that this game had very little bugs at all as a tester. Like if I think about the games that came out this year on Roblox, it had less bugs than most of them, and it's still in early testing, which really means the testers are doing their job, which is something that's really good to see. Now the next thing I want to talk about is something that can make or break games, and that's pay to win. And to be honest, from what I've seen so far, I'd be very surprised if this game ends up having a lot of pay to win features. They did say that they will be adding spin systems for race, clan, and grimoire, but they won't be affecting the game as much as you might think. Something they did say is that the grimoires are extremely balanced, and from my small gameplay experience I would agree with this. And they did say that the race and clan buffs are gonna be very small, and to be honest I didn't even notice any if they were even implemented in the game yet. They did say that there will be some game passes, but mostly all of them will be cosmetic, which is also a really good thing to hear. So with everything I've said so far, something really important I want you guys to understand is the game felt very polished. For a game in early testing, it was actually very surprising. Like when I initially loaded in the game, I was actually kind of confused why the game had not released yet. It really felt like I was playing a full game, but very quickly I noticed the lack of content in this game, which is what's most likely going to take this game a long time to release, and it's really going to make or break this game. It has the base fundamentals of a solid game down, and I really did enjoy it. And what I personally hope they end up noticing is that they do have the base fundamentals down, and they really just need to focus on ramping up the production of how much content they have. And although they have said it is loosely inspired by Black Clover, I still think they should spend this time adding a lot of things from Black Clover. I believe it's most likely loosely inspired so they can use their own creativity and actually make the game they want to make. And I think they can still do that while still adding things that really feel like Black Clover. Like I'm telling you, just a few little things would go a long way, whether that's adding a certain type of magics that really feel like Black Clover, or adding parts of the map that feel like it, or adding some quests that are really from Black Clover. Right now there is no main quest line, so I feel like if they took these base mechanics and put it in a game with a quest line that is actually from Black Clover, it would be an amazing experience. You don't understand. I think it would be really great. And I don't say that to overhype the game because that's not the current state the game is in. That's just what I personally hope happens to this game. Like the game really just feels like a nice motor, like some VA V8 V12 type of motor, and it just really needs some nice exterior and it will be ready to go. But that's just my opinion, and a lot will probably change by the time the game actually releases. But I'll keep you guys updated on the progression of this game as much as I can, and if y'all want to like and subscribe, that actually helps my channel a lot. And I'll also be live on Twitch, so I'd appreciate if y'all go and pull up over there too, you feel me? Either way, I appreciate y'all, love y'all, thank y'all, later.
Life. There's Roblox.